Welcome back. The U.S. and Iran at a critical point as President Trump pulls back from a major planned military operation on the regimes. The president says multiple Middle Eastern leaders urged him to hold off on new strikes as he gives Iran what he said was one last chance to make a deal. The commander-in-chief says talks with Tehran are moving forward, though Iran has repeatedly denied direct negotiations with the United States. In a post on Truth Social, President Trump writing, quote, "They are unbelievably duplicitous, and Iran is in fact talking of a solution." Here's the president yesterday.
They're going on right now. We have a little problem with Iran because we have many talks and we'll say we have or we don't have. You know, we're straight about it. But they deny, but they're not denying it now. But for some reason, they, when they're talking, they don't like saying that they're talking. So I say, wait, we're in talks. Big deal. Got calls from numerous people. I don't want to use the word begging, but some were. In particular, Iran did not want to be hit. And they said, we want to talk. We want to talk about the strait, but more importantly, from my standpoint, we want to talk about the denuclearization of Iran, because it's what it's all about.
Joining me now is Fox News strategic analyst and Institute for the Study of War Chairman General Jack Keane. General, great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Can you assess where we stand today in terms of getting a deal completed? Yesterday, after the president pulled back on new strikes, the Iranian propaganda or Iranian quote-unquote media said that there is no agreement regarding the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, adding the U.S.-backed Qatari proposal to reopen the strait is false, and Israel's Channel 12's claim that Iran's foreign minister accepted the deal is also completely false. Not sure who's writing these stories in terms of the propaganda media or whether or not it's a different group dealing with the negotiators on the president's side. Your thoughts?
Well, certainly it's pretty obvious we did step back from major combat operations this weekend, which would have been actually larger than what we had planned in Epic Fury. We've been gathering intelligence for 4 months, so we have more targets, and we've added energy and also economic targets to the target set. And we have more capability in the region than what we had when we began Epic Fury. And also the Israelis are at full magazine depth, and they would have participated in this operation. But obviously, the president has information that we're not privileged to have in dealing with the Iranians. Something happened in conversation with the Iranians that persuaded him that this time may be different from all the other times that Iran has extended the olive branch, so to speak, and been willing to negotiate. Remember, the history here starts on April the 7th, when we went to a ceasefire. We began the operation on February the 28th. The Iranians shut down the Straits of Hormuz on March the 2nd. And then we also eventually imposed a naval blockade. But on April the 7th, we shut down, we went to a ceasefire. And the reason for that is because Iran wanted to talk about negotiations over the Straits of Hormuz. And took until June the 17th, we actually signed a deal with the Straits of Hormuz being in the deal. It was the only thing in the deal that we agreed to. Everything else was negotiate over the next 60 days or maybe longer. Both presidents signed it. And that was that we would remove our naval blockade and therefore open our portion of the straits that we were closing. That was all dealing with Iran shipping in and out. And they would remove their interference and their attempt to try to organize and control shipping through the straits. They violated that deal days later and began to shoot at shipping moving through the straits in the southern part of Hormuz. So here we are. Now it's almost 4 months, and we're still dealing with the same issue. But the president has all the leverage here. I mean, leverage one is he was about to conduct a major combat operation, and the Iranians dial him up. Why? Because they don't want him to do that. They don't want to. They have a sense of what's going to happen to them here, that it's going to be significantly greater than what was taking place in those 38 days of war, and they have full resolution of what has transpired now for 4 months to examine everything that they've lost. They were about to lose just about everything that they own of any economic and military value, to be sure. They don't know all the details of that, but they got a sense of it.
Yeah.
So they dial up the president and are offering the olive branch again. This is really tough Maria, because the Iranians, likely the supreme leader and the IRGC leadership, really do not want to give up control of the Straits. They see it as a strategic asset. Why? Because it gives them leverage over the Gulf states, and also they found that their closing it affected the world economy.
Yeah.
That's power that they've never had before. So they likely do not want to give up some level of control here.
Yeah, of course.
Where are we? We want it to return to what it was prior to February 28th. This is freedom of navigation, international waterways. Oman, you don't control it. Iran, you don't control it.
Right.
There are no fees. There are no organization. Ships can travel freely. Now, one of the proposals is ships going in, travel on the Iranian side, ships coming out, travel on the Oman side. We would probably agree to something like that. That doesn't smack of any control. But anything else smacks of control. And I don't see the administration giving into that. So this will still be a tough negotiation. But the fact is, we also have the naval blockade in place.
Right.
So the president's got the threat of major combat operations, the naval blockade. We redirected 44 ships, disabled 2, boarded 2. And guess what? The Iranians have, as of last night, fired on shipping in the southern part of the Straits of Hormuz.
Right.
So, yes, we'll see what comes of this. The second thing that's on the table, Maria, is the nuclear deal, the nuclear enterprise again. So I don't think the president's going to go too long here with these negotiations. You've heard the adjectives he's used to describe them. You have the public Iranian statements, and then you have the private Iranian. The public Iranian statements is, we're not making a deal. We own the Straits of Hormuz. The private statements, we're not privileged to. Something has occurred that motivated the president to go into diplomatic negotiations again, knowing full well that the Iranians have violated the issues dealing with the specific issue of the Straits of Hormuz.
Right.
So it remains to be seen. I think it'll get resolved rather quickly, in a week or two. I don't think the president's going to sit on this very long and determine, is this real or not?
Yeah. Well, that was my question. I mean, does the president have a red line, do you think, where he's saying, okay, enough is enough? Because we've been here before, where we're thinking that we've got talks that are moving forward, and then the Iranians come out and somehow, whether through their media or their own talking heads, say it's not true. And this morning, we've got reports of multiple explosions in the Doha military base in northern Kuwait. So their, pushback has been to attack other Middle Eastern neighbors where perhaps U.S. forces are stationed.
Yeah, and that's the pattern in the past. Even despite the fact that 2 presidents signed the deal. President Trump signed it, so did their president. Within days, the IRGC was violating it and attacking once again. And, of course, that broke up everything.
Right.
And you see the pattern of behavior is continuing. The IRGC is still using force. And that's obvious in attacking in the Straits of Hormuz and also attacking one of our bases and also, obviously, an ally in the region, Kuwait. The pattern of behavior from Iran is being tested here. And I think if they don't comply and are faithful to this, the president is likely going to go right back to major combat operations.
Right. Well, we'll be waiting and watching all of this fast-moving development. General, great to see you this morning. Thanks very much for weighing in.
Yeah, great talking to Maria.
And to you, General Jack Keane. Stay with us. We'll be right back.